Hello everyone, welcome back to another Whiteboard Wednesday. In today's lecture, we're going to be talking about timelines, which is a very interesting concept. And actually, I know a lot of people have asked me questions about timelines. This is something that I enjoy talking about, and it can get super complex, but also like any of these esoteric concepts can be relative and made logical in a sense to the way that our 3D mind can conceptualize. So we're going to get both sides of the coin with every esoteric topic, with anything that is out there in life, just like there would be two sides to every coin. This is something that I oftentimes talk about, but as always with these sort of teachings, these quantum teachings, my goal here is to assist you in building the bridge between the very esoteric and our 3D everyday life as best as possible. You know, there's no right answer or wrong answer. It's really just about understanding some of these concepts and how they relate to our journey, how they relate to assisting us, empowering us, and really identifying and understanding what we still need to heal and how we can go about this world really being present and understanding of our own journey as we move through it. So 1:11 on the clock here. As I say that, I want to just let you guys know, as always, with these quantum teachings, it's imperative that you take the action to learn further on your own as well. If something that I'm talking about in these teachings interests you, go and do more research, go and learn more about it, go and hear different perspectives from different teachers, so that way you can start to receive more knowledge in your everyday life about that topic as it will start to come organically. So it's almost like you're not seeking out the information. We're not going to step into an energy of lack, but it's really about being curious. And as you're curious, you start to draw in more perspectives and more synchronicities, I'm hearing, to what you're trying to learn about as well. So timelines is very interesting. Many of you guys know this already with time, that it's an illusion, right? It's not necessarily something that can be made logical. In fact, it's a concept that human beings created. And in this case, this is true, right? Because in one moment, we have our clock, we have our hour to hour. We are aware that every planet, including Earth, has a set number of hours of its rotation, which can be equivalent to a day, right? So 24 hours in a day, we have our clock, and we associate by human time logic what that is for us. As I'm recording this for you right now, it is currently 8 p.m. USA Earth time, okay? So it depends, Central time I should say, but that's all relative, right? And you see how our mind kind of draws us into that meaning of time, putting us into that matrix box. And although it's good to have a handle on that for yourself, because the sun does rise and does set at the end of the day, as does the moon, at the same time we have to understand the larger concept so that we don't allow ourselves to step in too much of a mental battle with our relationship with time, which is something that we all experience. Feeling rushed with life, feeling like time can't move any faster when you're not enjoying the moment, things like that. And so outside of the relativity of what we believe time is based on, hours and 24 hours in a day, and the clock that we constantly race against for some of you out there, we have to understand that time is relative, and it's not necessarily linear, because while the present moment is happening, so too is the past replaying and the future playing out. And so this essentially means that while you're being present, there's still a version of you in the future and in the past that is still constantly in motion. The past, present, and future are all happening at once. And that's why there's this constant reiteration about the importance of being in the present moment, not focusing too much on the past, not dwelling on it for too long, not going into the future, that you almost forget to be present with the time that you have now. And so the now is always happening. I'm seeing an image of a picture that I've seen on Instagram. Maybe some of you guys have seen it, where it's a clock, and every hour on that clock, every hand just says now, because now is all that exists, right? And so I want to just remind you all to be cognizant of that really the power lies in the present, how you take advantage of the present, how you get ahead of your clock, if you will, by being as present as possible. So if you need to get organized, if you need to improve your relationship with time, with every hour of the day, maximizing your 24 hours a day, blocking your time by spending a certain number of minutes or hours doing one activity and a certain number of hours doing another activity, that still can happen while still also living in the now. Because if you set yourself having these different blocks of time throughout your day, these different responsibilities associated with different hours of your day, if you can create that organized schedule, and in those hours, each hour, you focus on that present moment, like from 9 to 5, you know you're working, for example, from 9 to noon, you know it's gym time, you stay present at that time, you're getting ahead of time. And this is what we can remember. It's like you can still be organized with the earth time that we're given, with the 24 hours, while still making sure that during those blocks of time, you're present, and that's the way to get ahead of it. So that was just a little message that was coming through for anyone out there who needed to build that bridge of understanding that time is an illusion, the now is only here, but what can you do to take advantage of the now? You know, if we need to be organized, you can be organized. But essentially, you know, I've talked about this in a lot of my videos, and I've definitely described it before, but I want to make sure that I can draw it for you. That's the point of these lectures. Time is not linear. It's not just a year, right? It's not just many years. It's happening all at once, and even more so into the future. So you are here. This is the now, okay? The present moment is right here. The past is right here, and the future is right here. They all interlink at some point, which is why you're seeing this circle almost being drawn around the entire timeline. But it's not just your timeline that exists. There's many other timelines that happen as well. So let's say that this entire timeline is you. This is your timeline. Sorry, my handwriting is awful, you guys, but this is you. This is your timeline. But at the same time, you have other people who have their timelines. You have your mom's or dad's timeline, right? So I'm going to try my best to make this more organized. Mom's timeline. You have dad's timeline, right? And whoever you can input. I'm just making quick examples. But at some point, their timelines cross with yours. Obviously before birth, but obviously at some point later in life. It doesn't matter who the person is, but everyone's timelines interlink. This could be your coworker, this could be your friend, this could be a stranger, right? So all of these timelines are happening at once, okay? And so what you start to see, the imagery as it continues to build, and we see more people connecting with more people, what shape starts to happen with these timelines? And I always use this example because this is what's coming through. It's almost like you can see a spider web starting to form. So everyone's timelines ends up becoming this sort of spider web where everyone's times, everyone's life, all the timelines are happening all at once. And so this is what happens with timelines, okay? So everyone's present moment is a single timeline that plays out at once. But at the same time, because there's parallel realities we have to consider, because there's other timelines that are overarching timelines we have to consider, there's more to the story, all right? So we talked about your timeline. We talked about how different people, whether someone you know, someone you're close with, or a stranger, timelines are also crossing with yours. And eventually, when you take all 8 billion people on the earth, everyone's timelines connecting together starts to weave this spider web, where the different points of the spider web are actually the different points at which these people are linking with your energy. Okay, so you can think of timelines in the way that everyone's timelines work on earth is through the imagery of a spider web. Okay, I think that's the easiest way to articulate that imagery. But that's just everyone's present moment timeline. As every person goes through their present moment, whether they're actually thinking about the present moment or not, their timeline's still going to play out, and it's still going to cross with different people at any point. Now, imagine that spider web becomes a wheel. So that spider web of all 8 billion people's timelines crossing and linking with each other, people you know, people you don't know, is starting to rotate like a clock. And every decision, thought, action you take starts to configure that entire spider web and the line with which your timeline is moving in a different direction, like the hands of a clock. This spider web starts to rotate and the lines start to shift and move with it. This is what timelines look like when people are living and experiencing every day, whether they're thinking about the now, the past, or the future. That clock, that spider web continues to twirl, move, and configure, still holding that spider web shape, but moving like the hands of a clock and rotating to fit how everyone is living their present experience. And so when we think about time in that aspect, it starts to make a little bit more sense. But we also have to consider that that spider web is actually known as a micro timeline. So everyone living in their moment, right, of their present moment, that spider web constantly rotating like a clock is considered a micro timeline, which means essentially the present moment, or the ways in which we spend our present moments, are us living our day-to-day lives, is us being placed in a micro timeline. There's also a matrix timeline which exists. Now, I don't want you guys to get confused. I only have a few minutes left on this video, but the matrix timeline is an overarching timeline, which essentially is connected to the Earth grid. And that basically means that as we as a collective make different decisions, as we become influenced by either the dark energies or helped by the light energies, when we become influenced by the astrological changes that are happening, like retrogrades and different sign placements, full moons, new moons, the matrix timeline affects the collective energy, which might assist in seeing shifts within the micro timeline. 1111, as I just say that. So basically, we as an individual can shift our own timeline in the way that our timeline moves throughout the whole world and everyone that's existing in it. But at the same time, we become influenced as a collective, meaning 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people, etc., can be going through the same things. They could be the same signs, they could be different astrological signs, but it's a collective energy through the matrix timeline which plays out and can influence the decisions with which the whole collective goes through. And sometimes we see that play out, actually very interestingly, through natural disasters, through world events, through the impulsive actions taken by different systems, political leaders. So there's influences from the astrological component, from the universe, that plays out in our experience as we live it through the micro timeline. And so the matrix timeline and us living our life on the micro timelines are constantly interweaving with each other. And my guides are showing me this imagery. You can think of a single spider web as all of humanity, and the matrix timeline suddenly influencing the spider web and actually playing the role of multiple spider webs starting to overlap with the main micro timeline of the collective living their everyday experience. Okay, hopefully I've explained that okay. I tried to repeat myself as much as possible with the imagery there, but that's what's coming through as to how to explain this to you guys. You know, this your timeline, you living your life, is one thing like everyone else's. Now the matrix timeline is a default I'm hearing code programming that plays out based on the astrological energies and the influences that exist, you know, between good and evil is what I'm hearing as well. That plays a role in how that timeline affects the collective. And so while we're all living our life, some of us may have expectations, some of us might be living unexpectedly, spontaneously. However you live, it doesn't matter. There's outside influences that can also play a role in the way that we move and shift through the timelines. Fate and free will, I'm hearing, has a huge component to the way that you move through your life as well, because something comes up in life, like I said, unexpected, could be unfortunate, for example, and it causes you to make a certain decision that might pivot you into a different direction. But keep in mind that no matter where you're at in your journey, you don't need to overthink it, because fate will always cross paths with you and find you again. You will always meet with your fate, with your destiny, which is a guiding light and force on your journey to assist you back to your highest timeline. And of course, as we all go through our own private, personal situations in life, we are going to essentially come in contact with the opportunity to raise and ascend and awaken into our higher timeline version and the lower timeline versions. You know, lower and higher timelines is a whole other concept. Let me know if you want a part 2 on this. I can definitely go into that, but I talk a lot about that on the Ascension updates on School of the Ascending. So if you want to read more and learn more about that, check out School of the Ascending, exclusively active on Instagram. And I hope that this video helped. Let me know if you have any questions. And until next time, collective, go and grow.